Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It is Monday, August the 1st, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The invocation this evening, we are missing the bishop, so we will observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if you're able and can join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Megan.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Wendy Onuki.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlock.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Approved as written. And that takes us to our update from Van Buren County Commissioner, Ms. Gail Patterson-Gladney. And good evening, Commissioner Gail.
Good evening. I have mentioned in the past QPR. I don't know if you remember me talking about QPR. It's similar to CPR. It's a way of saving a life, that you can help save a life by question, persuade, and refer. And QPR is a nationally recognized evidence-based gatekeeper training, and the gatekeeper trainings teach participants how to recognize suicidal language, which is often indirectly stated, appropriately respond to the person, and take the next step to help the person. And the upcoming training for QPR, which is free, and it's with Tracy Fay from Van Buren County Mental Health. That's going to be September 14th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. and it's through Zoom. You can register or request a training at a different time, and you can email Tracy, T-R-A-C-Y, Fay, F-A-Y, at tfay@vbcmh.com. And when registering for the grant purposes, please indicate if you're a mental health professional. If you're not, you're still welcome to take it. Anybody can take the course. Also, the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline was activated in mid-July. 988 is easier than the 10-digit number that they've had in the past. So hopefully that will be easier for everyone. If they're in a crisis, they can remember 988 instead of all the other numbers. It can also be reached through texting, and so that you just text 988, and through also through the live chat online through chat 988lifeline.org. We in the county are trying to get our residents connected to the internet. Before I talk about the mapping that we've been working on, I just want to mention something from the library. It's Khajiit Smart Spots can be checked out. They're hotspots. We have them now at the South Haven Memorial Library. If you live in South Haven City or Township and have a library card with us, you can come and check out for a week. If you're over 18, check those out. And that's really helpful for those who don't have that internet connection. You can also check at the Covert Library or the Bangor Library. I believe they have the hotspots there too. As I mentioned before, the county has been trying to make sure that we're able to do the best that we can to help to get more broadband services to the residents. And the mapping is complete that we did with TCS Technology. They presented a report to the commissioners July 26th. You can go on our website, VanBurenCountyMI.gov, and you can look at the recorded sessions. So you could see what the report was, if you like. But there are some updates that are pending to that report and to the report and maps. So once they're completed, they will be on our website. You can also request a digital and/or printed version, and that's going to be available after the updates. So when those updates have taken place, I'll come back and we can go over some of the highlights. We have our county administrator position that's still open, and the HR departments presented the applications received to date to the board. Our interim county administrator, Ryan Post, if you needed to get in touch with someone at the county, he's our interim county administrator. After viewing, the interviews will be scheduled, and hopefully that will be soon. The interim county administrator, Ryan Post, presented the draft budget to the board for review, and there's going to be a public hearing on August 9th at 12:50. So you're welcome to go onto our website, look at that draft budget, and if you have any concerns during the public hearing, then you can make some comments on that. The last thing I wanted to mention is the state of Michigan has a Senior Project Fresh, Market Fresh program. It's available for all seniors. And it is a project that helps seniors to have fresh vegetables and fruit and hopefully have a healthier diet if they need it. It's for residents who are age 60 and older, and they have to have a total household income of $25,142 or less, or for a couple, $33,874. And then they're eligible to apply for the program. And I can send the rest of the flyer to your city manager. The person to contact is at the Senior Services of South Haven, Van Buren County Senior Services on M140, and it's Kia Gray. You don't have to belong to Senior Services to receive this because it's a state program, but she is administering that program. And then the last item is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services continues their Stay Well program. I just want to mention this quickly because August 3rd is the beginning of some of the webinars that are available, Coping with Grief and Loss for teens and young adults, and that's August 3rd is the first Zoom meeting there. I will also send all this to your city manager. There's TAP, which Take a Pause, helping not just teens but adults too, to take a pause and relax and do mindful eating, grounding exercises, things like that. So there are, I think, 5 different attachments I'll be sending out, and you could check them out on your city manager's blog. Do you have any questions?
Questions, anybody?
I was just curious, how many hotspots are at the library?
I think there's only 5 right
Okay.
now, so
That's
get them while
great,
they're
though.
hot.
Thank you.
That's better than none, so that's good.
And if no one else is checking them out after you get the return yours, then you can get them out for another week.
Awesome.
So if people do not bring them back, then they're turned off. So it's no incentive to keep those.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Gil. Appreciate it. Thank you. All righty. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through F.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is roll call vote.
Arnold,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlock,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes, that takes us to new business. First up, City Council will be asked to consider a couple special events. First, we have Special Event 2022-19, which is the Foundry Hall Jazz Festival 2022, to be held on September the 16th and the 17th, 2022, from 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. at the Huron Street Pavilion and Dykeman Park.
Make a motion to approve special event 2022-19 Foundry Hall Jazz Festival 2022 to be held on September 16th and 17th of 2022 from 4 to 10 at the Huron Street Pavilion and Dykeman Park.
Second.
All right, motion second. Kate?
Yes, Mayor, this is the return of the Jazz Festival. So Foundry, Foundry Hall would do 2 nights with 2 concerts, or 2 different places for them to set up a band. So this will be September 16th and 17th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Using Dykeman Park and the Huron Street Pavilion. They don't anticipate this will interfere with the farmers market, so we're really happy to have them back and going with some jazz music.
Yep, it was real good last time, so it's good. All right, organizers here, not here? I'll look to see what organizers here, right? Nope, not here.
Nope.
All right, public questions? No jazz lovers. Council questions? Nothing. Motion and a second to approve Special Event 2022-19, Foundry Hall Jazz Fest. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Next, Special Event 2022-20, the Cemetery Tour 2022, to be held on September the 10th, 2022, from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. at the Lakeview Cemetery.
I make a motion to approve special event 2022-20, the Cemetery Tour 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, Kate.
Yes, sir. This is the Historical Association of South Haven. We'll be doing a cemetery tour. We'll have volunteers providing narratives of the people who are interned at the Lakeview Cemetery. The narratives will include details about the roles in the history of South Haven. They don't anticipate that by using like an amplified sound device that would be disruptive, but in any event, they should be done by 10 a.m. to noon.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any questions on this one? Public questions? Council questions? All right. We have a motion second to approve Special Event 2022-20, the Cemetery Tour 2022. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Rolling. City Council will be asked to introduce a proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination in housing, public accommodation, and employment.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce a proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination in housing, public accommodation, and employment.
Second.
We've got a motion. We've got a second. All right, Kate, we're back. We're finally here, so walk us through.
That's correct. Myself and the city attorney will be giving you a nice rundown about what this non-discrimination ordinance introduction entails. We were approached some time ago by the Out Center of Southwest Michigan, plus some of our local stakeholders, about putting forward a non-discrimination ordinance, particularly to housing, public accommodations, and employment, to protect certain classes that may not be protected by state law, namely either sexual orientation or gender identity. Nick, can you run down what the ordinance purports to do?
Sure. So the city currently has a very limited non-discrimination ordinance in, I believe it's Chapter 46 of the City Code. It was written, I think, in the 1960s. It only pertains to discrimination on the basis of housing, and even that is pretty limited as compared to housing discrimination ordinances in other communities. What this ordinance does is based on, really fundamentally based on the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act under state law, but more, perhaps even more based on some ordinances that have been adopted in recent years by communities, taking the Elliott Civil Rights Act as a model and then adding 2 additional categories of protection, one for sexual orientation and the other for gender identity. So this would cover 3 primary areas of discrimination. It would be employment, housing. Housing is the area currently covered by city ordinance. Public accommodations, employment, and housing. Public accommodations is a fairly broad term. It doesn't just mean public venues like City Hall. It means all private businesses that are open to the public. So that's probably the broadest category to which this ordinance would apply. It's a relatively lengthy ordinance, has details about what non-discrimination means in these various contexts, and also spells out exceptions that would apply for each context. The exceptions are, again, based on models from other ordinances and from the state law itself. The general idea of an exception is that it would allow someone to treat someone differently based on these categories, based on reasons that might be more societally acceptable, even though they technically fall within the definition of discrimination. That an obvious example is like senior discounts are technically age discrimination because you're treating older individuals more favorably than younger individuals, but there's a specific exception for that. And there's a whole section that spells out exceptions that are supposed to be similar, kind of socially acceptable, or at least compromise conduct, where we're creating exceptions from the general prohibition on discrimination. One thing pertinent to this ordinance that actually occurred after the staff report was released, the state Supreme Court, I believe on Friday, although it may have been late on Thursday, decided a fairly significant case in this area. As I mentioned earlier, the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act is the state statute that provides broad non-discrimination provisions statewide. It has historically been interpreted to not apply to sexual orientation or gender identity. Those categories are not explicitly listed in the text as they are in this draft ordinance. But late last week, the Supreme Court held that the term sex, as used in the act, there is a prohibition on sex, includes sexual orientation. And it didn't go so far as to say it includes gender identity, but that's a likely consequence of the decision as well. That will have to be decided in future cases. All that is to say, state law is now substantially broader today than it was even last week when we put this ordinance together. That does render this ordinance, frankly, a little bit duplicative of state law, at least with respect to sexual orientation, possibly with respect to gender identity as well, if the court extends that precedent in a future case, which is fairly likely given the reasoning of the decision. But again, this would be a separate city ordinance. It tracks pretty largely with the Elliott Civil Rights Act, but would provide the basis for a city citation in addition to a state law investigation.
Any questions? I know, excuse me. I know there's a lot that's in here, but I wasn't sure if there's any questions from council or anything like that on this ordinance.
I've got a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, I thought this was good. I just had a few questions. So we're looking at page 103 of the agenda packet. Toward the bottom of 103, it has a definition of discrimination based on sex, and then includes sexual harassment, and then it talks about the definition of sexual harassment. And then on the bottom of 104, it kind of repeats with another definition of sexual harassment. It looks like they're the same. I was just wondering, was there a reason why it kind of repeated itself there? And if you want to take time to look at that, that's fine.
Where is the repeated language? Let's see.
So the bottom of page 103, and it goes into the top of 104, it talks about, in fact, if you look at page 104, you look at the top of 104, and you look at the bottom of 104, and you see the similar language right there.
It's in the definition section,
Oh, I see.
and there are two different definitions, really. There's discrimination based on sex, and then there's also describes what sexual harassment is, or how it's defined here.
I would think you could have just said discrimination is includes sexual harassment, and then the definition of sexual harassment would cover that additional words.
It does look like that. I
definitely
think
be-
these definitions are taken from state law. I can double check that, but I agree, that does, A, B, and C seem duplicative. And sexual harassment, I think the definition could just be limited to of a sexual nature, period. And then I think it would read the same. I will look into that further before our next meeting, and if the change makes sense, we can make it in the next draft.
Okay. Just a couple other questions. One was on the definition of perceived, and I noticed it says perceived means the perception of the person who acts and not the perception of the person for or against whom the action is taken. I just wanted, is that consistent with state law and other ordinances you've looked at? Because it seemed kind of confusing to me. I would have thought perceived would have been necessarily the person whose the action is taken against, but that, you know, I looked at where that word shows up, and it seems to be pretty, the definition seems to fit with the way the ordinance is written.
So the definitions were all taken from model ordinances or from state law itself. I don't recall what that term work that does in the ordinance. Means a real or perceived male or female. So it appears that may only. Oh, so the reason it's defined that way is because this ordinance is intended, it's a civil ordinance, but it's effectively punitive. So it's intended to ferret out like accidental conduct. If you wrongly perceive someone to be of one gender and that affects your action, that's not, you essentially had a innocent frame of mind, and it's not truly discrimination in that context. So that's why it's defined with respect to the actor as opposed to the person.
Got it.
I believe so.
Last question, the definition of sex, and I see that when we're talking about discrimination, sex and gender are pretty much used together as things you can't discriminate against. I was just kind of surprised the definition of sex seems to be a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily consider, and I just want to make sure, again, that is consistent with.
Yes, I'm fairly certain that's consistent with state law. I also found that to be a strange definition, but I think that's what's generally used in these ordinances.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's it.
Good questions. Anybody else down here with questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we know the Outcenter's opinion on this draft ordinance?
Well, I think that there's some here in the audience.
Okay.
But I've shared this draft with them and let them know this was what was being proposed after we had already had a conference, and they seemed very happy with this and wanted to
Okay.
proceed.
Great. Thank you.
Joe?
This issue once came up a couple years ago to council, and since then, the federal government, as we all know, ruled against discrimination on employment. Now the state looks like it's going to be very close, if not already done, in terms of housing. Some could argue, why do we need to do this at this point? Well, the last I heard, and this was a couple years ago, 43 communities took it upon themselves to pass both of these things. In my humble opinion, as a council person, I feel by supporting what may already passed, it says a lot about who we are as a community. We had those 4 young students come to our community, and one of the things they all said was how welcoming our community was and how good they felt. And a couple of them, I think, were from New York or wherever, but they were so surprised how everyone was welcoming. I think this puts out a welcome mat to all communities, to all people. And if we're looking for people to come to South Haven from around the country to work here, especially working out of their home, this is like a welcome mat to everyone, saying we welcome all people. So where we may not have an issue right now, or the government may have already stepped in, I do think it's important as a community to speak out for what we stand for. Just like the vision statement, we had a DEI. I think it's important as a community to do this.
All righty. I'll just jump in a couple things. First of all, thanks for teaching me a new word, duplicative. I didn't know that word existed, so thank you. Explain a little bit on the process as far as if there's a dispute or question. I think that was one concern that probably some people share, like, all right, are we getting into an area where, you happen to be an attorney, but just in some cases, maybe we can, in some cases get referred. What does that mean to refer if it's something that we can't
Right.
settle?
Should a person want to make a claim or say that they have been discriminated against, there's a number of items that are itemized in the ordinance as to what they need to turn in. That would be submitted to the city manager's office, and I would either refer that to the city attorney, or if we have, for review. If we find that this is covered under Elliott Civil Rights Act, we can refer it to the state or the federal level. And that's satisfying what is in this ordinance. If it is not within the Elliott Civil Rights Act or any other federal law, then we would undertake an investigation and proceed within the ordinance. And that could be either issuing code enforcement to issue a ticket and there's a $500 fine, or it may be that there is no determination that the discrimination occurred. So all these are steps that are within the ordinance.
Okay, got it. And I will just say, having been involved in it both times, I mean, just that we've heard from residents on a variety of occasions, it's important to that, again, that sense of belonging, being comfortable being here, and if it's as simple as this to at least help to take that step, then I think it's important that we take that step because we want people to feel welcome. So on that note, public questions or comments, I would be happy to come on up. And again, thanks to those involved from the community that have helped craft this ordinance as Ms. Rosalie approaches. Just come on up, state
Hi,
your name or
Rosalie.
names and address. And
Yes, Rosalie Placati, 559 Monroe Boulevard, and I've got some,
I'm Kathy Caldwell, 506 Humphrey Street.
Gary McMillan, 506 Humphrey Street.
good evening, everybody.
so I just wanted to really say thank you. I mean, this is a process. So I wanted to thank Ms. Hosier, Mr. Curcio, to move this very important amendment forward. It will solidify our commitment to our residents and guests, and I think that goes to you, Mayor, that we are on the books as a welcoming community. And you might think this is a little bit of a moot point because of the Elliott Larson that just happened all at the same time that we've been working on it. But it's still important because anything can change at the state or federal level as we're experiencing now. This got started in late 19 and 20. It got delayed by a couple of years, but we're so glad to bring this forward now. And we really hope that you support this. And I just want to thank you for the efforts. Getting this stuff done, I know, is hard and time-consuming amidst all your things that you have to do. So I appreciated the time here and the effort. Do you want to say anything? Okay. So I'm here if you have any questions, too, but you've got your experts here, so I don't think I need to. But thank you again.
Well done. Thanks, Rosalie, for your time and bringing all this. All right.
Danielle Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. And first of all, yes, thank you. This matters. I have volunteered at the Out Center as a pastor for the last almost 5-6 years. Some facts from the Trevor Project. LGBTQ youth are not inherently prone to suicide risk because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, but rather are placed at higher risk because of how they are mistreated, stigmatized, and ostracized within society. Having at least one accepting adult can reduce the risk of suicide attempts by 40%. By making this ordinance part of our statement of who we are as a city, we are saying we want to prevent those suicide attempts. 25% of LGBTQ youth have admitted that they've attempted suicide. I've heard the comments recently from other discussions, other places here in the city. Do we really have that large of an LGBTQ population? Yes. I'm beginning to see a lot of rainbow flags. Thank you, whoever is putting them out on your front yards. That's wonderful. That's also a message. But a lot of times you may not be aware of the LGBTQ persons in your neighborhood, in your community, in your church, because they don't feel safe enough to tell you that they're part of that community. This is a way for us to help them understand they are safe, and for us all to educate ourselves a little more on what it means, sexual orientation, gender identity, as opposed to sex, which that's a very strange definition in the, in the ordinance. Childbirth and sex, But anyways, I just really want to thank you for considering this and fully support it as a citizen and as a pastor.
Thanks for that information.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I just got a couple of questions. I first want to start off by saying, as a pastor, I am in support of equality for everyone. Forgive me, I didn't get a chance to read this ordinance, proposed ordinance. I just had a couple of questions. How did the city arrive at it? Did we feel there was an issue with this in our city? Is that something, I just have a few questions. How did we arrive at
This has been a few years in the making.
I know, I was here when it was first introduced. But
So, yeah, it's been an ongoing issue, concern, and it's really, it's again, it's just a statement for us to.
Was it an issue? Do we have that issue here in South Haven?
I would say the goal is to not have it be an issue. How's that sound?
That's not answering. Do we feel that there's an issue in this? You have to have an opinion because you're supporting something like
Absolutely.
this. This is a huge thing.
Absolutely.
To just come up with an ordinance to protect a certain group of people, that's a huge step.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you have to be able to answer it tonight.
My answer to you is it's important enough to this group, well, and we're about to vote on it, so you'll find that out, so.
Thank you.
Let me give you an analogy. Discrimination against race is an obvious one because you can't hide behind your color. You and I have talked about it. Discrimination against sexual orientation is subtle. We don't know it's happening, and the only ones who know it's happening are those suffering from it, from that discrimination. So no, it'll never come out publicly in most cases. No, it won't be talked about, but it's happening. So why not protect those who don't feel comfortable enough to come out and talk about it? So all we're doing is protecting everyone. If there's no problem, then there's no waste here. But if there is an issue, and God forbid a child commits suicide because they're not comfortable with who they are, if we could save one person, then this thing is well worth it.
Okay, so my only reason for asking that question is, I'm not saying this is wrong. I just wanted to kind of connect the dots on how we got to this point, and if the city recognized that it was an issue in this community. Because frankly, I'm in the areas I'm at, I never recognized it as a real issue where it came to the level of an ordinance being proposed. And that's the only reason why I asked the question. And I think everyone should feel like they're welcome. And so I was trying to figure out, going forward, how do we make everybody feel like they're welcome? Maybe we should take a look at all our ordinance that pertains to this and see where we could, sure them up that in a way that everyone feels welcome and everyone feel like they're equal. I'm not saying that this group tonight should not have that protection either. I'm just trying to connect the dots on how we got here. If there's a group, if we felt like there's a group here in South Haven that does not truly feel welcome, they feel threatened, because that's what I heard here tonight, that other cities did it because people felt more welcoming when they saw an ordinance on the books. Well, imagine what other people feel too when they don't feel like there's certain ordinance that protects them too. And so I'm just saying that openly because I think everyone should be treated equal regardless of their race, sexual orientation, any of that other things that, I think everyone should have that welcoming feeling in here in South Haven. And maybe there's other ordinance that needs to be looked at too, to make others feel just as welcoming. That's it.
Thank you, Joe.
Two things to say to that. One, I think we were approached by some folks from the Out Center, so this came from them, and this was something that we looked into a couple years ago. And of course, this council signaled their interest in bringing this back. So we worked with that group to bring these forward. And I do want to also talk about the classifications of what this ordinance purports to protect. And it's so that people are not discriminated against because of their race, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, height, weight, marital status, or disability. Those are the classifications that are being protected by this ordinance.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And again, if someone ever felt, I mean, I hope people feel comfortable in approaching this body or any of us to say if there was ever a concern, clearly we want to address any of those concerns.
Right, I guess I
So-
should say that I've not received an allegation of discrimination since I've been in the role of city manager, but that's probably, I'm hoping a good thing that people have not felt that in our welcoming community, but either way, if this ordinance is adopted, this is one more tool in our toolbox.
Agreed.
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. And thank you, Joe, for your comments. I agree 100%. And as Kate said, we already have incorporated some of those protections for people of color, which I feel really good about, and this just extends it one more step. I did want to say, in regard to whether or not people feel comfortable, most people are not going to express that. It's only when you come to know them. As you may know, a lot of white people don't understand what people of color go through. I go to an open mic at Black River Tavern once a month, and a friend of mine who regularly goes there is gay, and he expressed to me that when he leaves, he is fearful. He does look over his shoulder because he's afraid that people might perceive that he's gay, and that he may pay the consequences of that. Now, that's just one instance. If he were a casual acquaintance, I don't think I ever would have heard that, but because he's a friend, he expressed that to us. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that, yes, we have been in communication with the Out Center, and they do heartily support this, and this is a great ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Elaine Herbert. I live at 404 North Shore Drive, and yes, this is a great ordinance. Thank you for that. And yes, we do need this. And yes, we have had a problem. And if you've lived in this town very long, we certainly remember the gentleman who mows his lawn over on LaGrange in less than full coverage, and the abuse that he suffered at the hands of this community for a long, long time. It's not funny, but it was treated like it was funny for a long, long time. So yes, we have a serious problem, and it needs to be solved. But the other thing is this problem that we are an aging community. We are old, and being old, we suffer a certain amount of indignity at being old. And one of them, Mr. Mayor, is at your hands. And I know you don't mean it, but this is a good time to remind you that almost every single time you invite us to apply for boards and commissions, you enthusiastically, even though you have a room full of people, Ms. Boogie and Ms. Hosley and myself and Pat Gaston and any number of people who served for decades on boards and commissions of a certain age, you enthusiastically recommend that, oh, for God's sake, let's get some people in here under 40. You say it all the time. And we feel it. We're sitting out there doing the work. We're bringing it to you. And it hurts. It feels bad. And when we bring a lot of issues here and we ask for answers and we get nothing, as residents, we're not a protected species, I suppose, but we feel bad too. So everybody should feel welcome, no matter what age or whatever else we are. So please, thank you for really making us feel that way, making us feel heard and seen, and making our opinions welcome and appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks for your comments. And I will just say that I encourage everybody to apply for boards and commissions. And the fact that I encourage young folks is simply a fact that we are lacking them. And I will continue to state that I love to see more young people in our community. So, who's next? Nobody. All right.
We've got one last one.
Oh, come on up. Oh, come on up. State your name and address.
My name is Monica Cooper. I live at 3603 76th Street.
Did you get that?
I was having a problem with the water outage that I had at my home. And
Well, we're actually, that would have to come up later on. We're talking about a discrimination ordinance right now, so.
that's because they told me to come here if I had a complaint, and I feel like I walked in on something that I'm not supposed to be. I didn't know what this was about. And my mom's pastor is here and everything. I didn't know he was going to be here.
In a couple minutes, we'll let you know.
You're in the right place.
You're in the right place, just a couple minutes.
You're just a little early.
A little
Yep.
early.
Nope.
We'll call you up.
You're right place, right, yep.
Thank you again. Okay, was there anybody else? Okay. All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second to introduce the proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination. All those in favor to introduce, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's introduced. Next, City Council will be asked to receive an update from Public Works Director, Mr. William Hunter. Good evening, Bill.
Thank you, Your Honor. City Council. The following is an update from DPW on projects going on within the city. New substation. Update to what actually is on the staff report is we did finalize an agreement from AEP, MPPA, and the city on our new substation. So we have everything ordered. We have the contractor hired. So the last step is a presentation to the Planning Commission for the township, and we should be up and rolling for that. AMI project, we're still waiting on meters. Like anything else, chips are hard to come by. The Census Meter Company actually decided to build their own plant to make their own chips. So I thought that was a good out of the box, and so we should be getting meters within the next probably end of August, September, and we should be on track to get that project implemented by the spring of next year. Aylworth non-motorized path, that's out for bids now. That total construction project for that is $315,000, and the city is going to pay $180,217, and CMAQ will cover $134,783, and that is for a bike path, a 10-foot path on Aylworth from Kalamazoo to LaGrange. We're working with our engineer for locker room improvements at the DPW building to accommodate both genders. City Hall air handling unit, we're having, the air handlers have been kicked back, and they're probably not going to get them now until December. Again, like anything else, supply chains, chips. We are working with a separate contractor for a hatch on the top. That shouldn't affect anything. It'll be a winter project then putting them in, so I don't think anybody you'll notice, but most of the work will be done on top. The distribution system material inventory, or DSMI, and that's with SHAWSA. That's changes to the Safe Water Drinking Act. It requires this DSMI. Part of the DSMI is a 4-point verification of 551 sites. And staff is working on that right now. With SHAWSA Project 2 is the Blueberry Tank Vault Project, or altitude valve. That was awarded through Allied Mechanical Services for $151,132. That'll be installed when flows start going back down, the demand goes down. We'll have to take the Blueberry Tank out for a little bit. We'll put this altitude valve in, or that manual valve What that'll allow us to do is shut the valve, isolate the tank, build up pressure from the low pressure side to the high pressure side and feed during demand periods. Cross-connection inspections, due to changes to the Safe Water Drinking Act, we're now required to inspect even residential homes. And there are two parts of the inspection. One is an actual physical inspection, and the other one is testing the backflow prevention assemblies. People get a lot of confusion on that when they get the letter. They think it's a one-time thing, but if you have, say, for example, a sprinkling system, that requires to be tested annually. Project plan for the wastewater treatment plant. We have a project plan in place, and that is to try to get federal funds for any of the improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. We're applying for about $16 million in projects. We're applying for everything that we have and see what we can get. So we're working with the state of Michigan at this time for that. Been meeting back and forth with the Army Corps of Engineers about beach nourishment, and we should be seeing something shortly. On that, we're also working with them on getting something closer to the pier, so working on specifications and how to get that accomplished. Kids Corner Phase 2, we do have the specifications in to the state, and those have been completed, so we are on track. We should have bid documents out here fairly soon for contractors to bid on. Pier railing and gate. We're still waiting on an agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. They told us December. I'm thinking somewhere in the time of February probably of next year. So, and with them too, we're also working with another a renewal of another lease agreement, and that's for the life rings on there as well. Decertification of Park Street, and that was due to an audit of our Act 51 maps. We discovered that there was a section of park that we were accepting funds from that doesn't exist. So we're bringing something to City Council to decertify this non-existing roadway. We're still working on the flushing rates for culvert flushers. The flushers there's 3 flushers in the system. It's required for disinfection byproducts, the high increased disinfection byproducts within that area. Shawsa water service system replacement. We have a contract with Compton's. Compton's been working in the same area where we'll be doing resurfacing. The idea is to go in there and change all these surfaces out before we resurface. And also listing is a resurface project. Again, Compton's has that contract as well. And that work will start actually in August, completed in October of this year. So I'm here to answer any questions City Council may have on these projects or DPW related.
Bill, the substation project, when's that going to go to the Township Planning Commission?
It'll be August 3rd.
Okay.
It'll be this Wednesday. I'll be there
Okay.
Wednesday night.
All right, good, thank you.
Bill, isn't there recycling happening at the DPW on Saturday?
Yes, August 6th, Saturday through the county, yes.
Remind everyone about that.
Yes, that we'll have the DPW, we'll have people there, and they'll be doing bins and stuff, and they'll have people there through the county actually accepting recycling.
Okay.
That's a good question. I should have had done on there. Thank you.
I have a question for you about it's not on this list, but the spraying that was going to go on by the bluff, I think.
Oh, we posted that actually through the CMMS. and they're-
SISMA?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. And they're handling that. We just relayed actually their press release.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot what they're actually spraying.
I think they're spraying for kudzu.
Do we know if that will have any negative impacts on the ecosystem there?
Well, I know that it's the Conservation District that's handling it, so
Okay.
I think they've been mindful of what else is out there, but they do want to be very aggressive with kudzu because it's a very aggressive plant. So that's what they're spraying for.
Okay.
Can you just like real quickly explain, because I mentioned the Cape Seal jokingly, but I think there is some confusion as to why we have done that versus maybe a traditional, just to explain.
Oh, yes.
One, there's a benefit, there's a cost, so
Be more than happy to. Only a few years, actually, we started doing the Cape Seal. We started to discover, actually, if we were on the same path of just doing what I call as a mill and fill, we started to see a trajectory of our road ratings dropping significantly. We didn't have enough funds to get our road ratings back up to a good or fair position. We were going on a trend. So we came up with this, and that was due to Mike Dopp, the city engineer, came up with the idea of Cape Seal. It looks similar when you do it, and it's the same process as a chip seal, and people see that, they panic. That's why we do send out letter and press release explaining the multiple stages. But like a chip seal, you'll do some prep work to the surface before, you'll lay a slurry down and the stones, and what they do immediately afterwards is they do it to the gutter pan and they sweep it up. Now, they still leave the stones and let traffic beat it down a little bit, but then about a week later, they're laying another slurry down, which is it's a thick coat. What it does, it extends the life of your road for another 7 years, and at a fifth or even an eighth of the cost of a mill and fill road. So it extends it and will allow us to get our trajectory back up. And you can do that a couple of times. And even some of the roads that might have some larger patches or bad areas, it's almost cheaper for us to do some larger, take some larger asphalt off and asphalt it and then do that Cape Seal over top of it.
Perfect, thank you. Anybody else?
Can I ask one more question? The water main break on Phoenix, seems like it's nearing completion for the fix. And just wondering, because there was another one down the road not too long ago, does this feel like something that's going to be happening as those items wear out more regularly, or just wondering what to expect?
That's a very good question. Going to the water main break that happened recently, that one should be finishing up here real soon. John Sipes will be finishing up the top of that and getting the concrete back up. That main that was installed, believe it or not, is just 2001 and ductile iron. What we discovered actually is the pipe was not wrapped. In our area, we need to do what's called a wrap on the pipe. You can't just lay pipe in the ground, because with our soil conditions here, they're very acidic. So ductile iron pipe, and that was what was installed. Ductile iron pipe with a bituminous coating is rotting away. And it was so bad, actually, when staff actually did the repair clamp, so they had to cut a section out, and they put these repair sleeves in with these special glands. They're round, and they look like the bolt holes. They're called glands. You slide them on, and they're reinforcing ones where bolts go in. And they're, I like to call it they're sailor proof, because when you tighten them off, the nuts break off and don't allow you to put any more torque that would hurt the pipe. Well, doing that, and they got everything finished, and they did have it pressurized up before they even buried it, and then they thought it blew apart, but what it was is one of those restraining bolts went right through the pipe. And ductile iron pipe is just about impossible to crush. You can't hit it with a hammer and try to get it and try to knock a hole out of it. It's not like cast. Cast, I can take a cast pipe and I can lay it there and I can hit it with a sludge and I'll crack it. Ductile iron pipe, we can line everybody you want, and I want to see somebody try to crack that, because it won't happen. But we cracked it by just tightening something. So to answer your question, this isn't even in an older section, nor was this even planned on the replacement. Now I have to plan to replace this because unfortunately it was stalled incorrectly. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Nothing? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Next, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. So to the young lady that was going to, oh, and come on up here too. If you want to come on up, just state your name and your address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes. So good evening. Welcome.
That's all, just 5 minutes. My name is Monica Cooper. I live at 36039 76th Street. And so, I was just complaining because they shut my water off for like $85. And then I had to pay 3 times that much. And you know, I know that y'all had problems with the water main breaks and stuff. And, you know, I think that that's cheating and stealing and trying to get me to pay for your water main breaks, because it shouldn't cost that much money to, and I've been here for like 4 years now, and I've never had a water shut off, and I always pay the bill. And for $85, really, you're gonna shut my water off? And then the lady told me, well, you owe, after I paid the $85 for the June bill, because it was July, and she said, you owe $85, we shut your water off for June bill for $85. And I said, okay, I paid the $85. And then she said, you owe another $100 to have the water turned back on, and then another $63. And I said, look, I pay you $200, just turn my water back on. And she said, but all you owe is $163. And I said, but I'm gonna give you $200 to show y'all how petty y'all are. So she said, well, you pay what you want to pay, but you only owe $163. And so she said, I can't take the money. I gotta get you to the automated system. She get me to the automated system. The automated system say I owe $240. And after she told me I owe another $163, it's $240 all of a sudden. So I just paid the money, but it's not really about the money. It's about, you know, having compassion for people, turning off their water and stuff, and then, you know, after we got the water turned back on, like 4 days later, we find out the water's contaminated. It's a bottled water advisory or something, because the
Water
pipe
main break.
broke or something.
It was water main break.
And maybe that's why they turned my water off for $85 to pay those breaks, but, you know. And I just want to say, if anything that the coronavirus should have taught us is how to have compassion, because you want God to have compassion for you, so you got to have compassion for other people and not turn their water off and then charge them some outrageous price to get the water turned back on.
You can reach out to her and just,
Yeah,
or
after
Kate
the
reach
meeting, I'll
out to you.
stop by and get your telephone number so I can look more into this.
Oh.
If you want to write it down. Sure, if you want to write it down. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night. Anybody else? Thank you. Anybody else? I think I saw someone else ready to come up. Good evening.
My name is Laura Johnson. My husband and I are the owners of 240 Oak Street in South Haven. We've been working with the city of South Haven to restore our outdoor cooking area, which was damaged by the storm which hit South Haven last August 2021. Starting the last few weeks, at a point where structures were in place for weeks, our neighbors, the Carollo family, began complaining about our restoration project, which has been ongoing since shortly after the storm, late August 21. They started to make several complaints citing different city codes and their perception of our noncompliance. Prior to the current barrage of complaints, the Carollo family never voiced any concern to us during their ownership of the adjacent property during the nearly 15 years the outdoor cooking area was in place. Never. We never had any previous confrontations with the Carollo family or any other residents of South Haven. The Carollo family has never approached us to discuss their current concerns. Rather, they have exhibited aggressive behavior which borders on harassment, and they have made statements to the city which are inflammatory and inaccurate, including the initial complaint and now returning to the same complaint. They believe there is inadequate evidence there was a cooking area in the space prior to the storm. Therefore, they do not agree with the city's decision stating we meet the criteria under the grandfathering clauses to restore a non-conforming structure. If they relent to the outdoor cooking areas being there before the storm, they resort to claims of the minimal size of the footprint of the cooking area structure they said was never there, claiming it would not allow a cooking area to be restored for a non-conforming structure. The city has reviewed the Carollo family's documentation. We have tried very hard not to provoke a confrontation. We have tried to rise above their attacks and provide the city with the required information and move on. We can no longer refrain from addressing their behavior. We're at a point where we are uncomfortable in our home and also worried when we're not there. We both work full-time, and we feel we cannot leave our property unattended. We are under constant surveillance by the Carollo family with situations like the one in this picture, where they are going to the extent of standing on a ladder to take photos of our yard while I was on my deck in open sight and calling to my dogs, which were in the area they were photographing. They're constantly taking pictures, taking measurements. They're continually going to the city with new, revised, and redundant complaints. They have made it very clear they want to deny us our property rights when they continually say which they continually say we're not entitled to. They have made it abundantly clear they do not want us to have anything in the place where our kitchen was before the storm and where the non-damaged portions still sit. They want what was not damaged by the storm to be removed. I really think nothing short of demolishing the entire area and never rebuilding will satisfy them. And given their continued threatening stance, I don't think this will even stop the harassment. I cannot understand their state of mind. We have worked with the city staff to become knowledgeable of the city ordinances. I believe you all received a letter from me explaining what led up to this, at least from our experience, and to provide documentation supporting how and why we meet the requirements to be considered for restoration of a non-conforming structure in the area by meeting grandfathering provisions. This documentation was provided to the city zoning administrator and reviewed by the city attorney and the city manager. Their conclusion is we adequately demonstrated compliance with the applicable sections of the zoning ordinance, including 1901 and 1904. I'm hurrying because I think I'm a minute, right?
You got it.
Okay. Our neighbors, the Carollo family, continue to demand we not be allowed to restore the outdoor cooking area. They will not stop their assault on our property rights. We are following the City of South Haven's ordinances and the terms in the zoning compliance permit to the best of our ability. We are hopeful but not optimistic the Carollo family will honor the same. We wish the Carollo family health, happiness, and continued enjoyment of the properties they own in South Haven. Likewise, we desire to peacefully enjoy our property. We desire to finally complete the restoration and move on. We desire to be able to be in our home, out in our yard, working in our garden, using the cooking area, or relaxing on our deck without anxiety, worry, or concern about our neighbors' intrusive behavior and personal attacks. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. Thank you for your service on the City Council. And thank you to the city staff, particularly Kelly Getman-Dissett, for their professional attention to this matter. Respectfully, Richard and Laura Johnson. I don't know if you want this.
Thank you for your comments. And I know I've seen the most recent correspondence from our staff supporting your project. So
Thank
well
you.
done. So thank you. Sorry for all you're going through.
Thank you.
Next. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Roger Olette, 98 Clinton Street, 30-year resident of South Haven. And I'm here really on behalf of myself, a number of non-residents that rent, residents that don't rent, and some businesses that actually were afraid to come here personally and address the city council for fear of reprisals and from the NNN vigilantes that may take reprisals against them. But they'd asked me to come and on behalf of them voice an alternative to this small vocal group that seems to control the city council and already have your votes prior to the votes. But That's innuendo. Let me speak to the facts that I understand them and how I've seen them over the years. You're talking here about discrimination, and it's great. That's a great bill, fine. But what about the discrimination against the renters? The folks moved into my house over this weekend, not my house, the house next door, and they asked me very subtly if I was one of those that resented them being there, and that they were very concerned and had come here for many years, but probably won't come back because of the sentiment that is now in South Haven against renters. Neighbors need neighbors. Cities need commerce. The sentiment's nice. You know, I'd love to have kids run around, families, all that good stuff, but it's not 1960 anymore. There's no businesses here. There's nothing but tourism, for God's sakes. The argument is, oh, we're the highest per capita people in the city with renters. We're the most. Yeah, you're also the most non-residents tax base of almost any city in the country. I've been here 30 years, surrounded by people that rent. Not a problem. Grandparents, parents, and kids. They go to the grocery store every week. They go to the bars. They go to the restaurants. They parade in and out every week supporting this economy. Now, conversely, I got another neighbor. He's pretty rich. He owns the house. He's there 4 times a year. 4 times a year. Stops at Bob's and buys his steaks. Maybe hits a restaurant or a bar. Doesn't do much for the economy, and the house sits vacant most of the time. I love him, great guy. But, you know, I like some of the people who've been next door to me for years, year after year, and so they're not going to come back anymore. They resent it so bad. I mean, you have to be careful what you ask for. The only business here is tourism. I bought this house 30 years ago for $55,000. I don't know, I'm telling I can maybe get $1 million for it now. But I could have had my choice of 6 or 7 houses. They were all empty. They were all run down. There was nothing going on in this town. I'd come to South Haven since I was 5 years old, went to the beach. I came here because I loved it, and I didn't like the east side of the state. And I bought the house. I came on weekends. Every now and again, I rented it to help pay the taxes that continually go up. You sure love to get the money in from those non-residents. You don't want to give anything back to them, though. They don't even get a vote. I mean, I got no horse in this race, but I have just watched what is happening. And you got to have a head on your shoulders. Your only economy is tourism, and if you lose it, you're going to lose it. You know, you will get a few work-at-home people, okay. Gas is so high, nobody's going to come here and commute. So if you destroy what you have, and you know, somebody's come talk to me. I bought him a beer at my bar the other day, and he couldn't even articulate the problem. What is the problem? What do the renters do? I haven't seen one thing. I was here a few years ago, and I asked for the data. Most of the problems in the city are by the residents or the families of the residents that are gone, and their kids or whoever are causing the problems, and then give a different name that doesn't match to a resident, and you call them renters. Show me the data where these renters are causing a problem. Most of the golf carts are owned by residents. I don't let any of the renters I've ever had use my golf cart. So, I mean, I don't understand. You got to be careful what you ask for. This city is based on tourism, and it's not 1960 anymore. I mean, like I say, I've probably missed a few points here. I guess my time's up. I appreciate your patience, but you need to get another perspective. And I guess because I'm pretty vocal and animated, I've been asked by a lot of people to come and speak that are frankly afraid to come here because they are afraid of recrimination.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello. James Benham, 80 South Haven Street. Good to see y'all. Been a few years. I'm a 3-month of the year resident of South Haven. My wife was born in this town in the hospital just down the road. She's a Van Buren resident, was adopted out to a family in Lawrence, and then came here all the time. She went to Western Michigan, and her dream was to always have a summer house in South Haven. And I met her in 2002 and fell in love with her and wanted to make it happen. So by 2011, we started vacationing here from Texas. And rented for 3 years, I think. We were here for like a month a year. And then we finally scraped enough money together to buy a small house on South Haven Street. And just started spending more and more time here. I really fell in love with the town. It's really been an amazing place. We raised our babies from age 1 and 4. They spent their whole summer here. Moving here wasn't practical. My business was in Texas, but I spent every minute that I could here. I know some of you are in the same situation where you live in other towns and you come here. And I know that sentiment's familiar, so I just fell in love with South Haven. And my wife always told me I would love it. She loved coming here and always felt welcome. And I always did too. I really, really did feel pretty welcome. I made a lot of friends that were my neighbors and hung out with a lot of you. And I guess my big concern is really around what the definition of neighbor is. Because right now I don't feel like a neighbor. And I don't know what I did to not be treated like one. And it's really confusing and honestly pretty hurtful. Because I see a lot of signs of neighborhoods need neighbors. I saw a sign that said, campaign sign that said neighbors first. And I got really confused when I saw that because that was the same slogan that Trump used when he said America first. And I hated that slogan because I thought it was, xenophobic. I'm a global business person. I travel all over the world. And I was like, how can you possibly say America first? We should be about the whole planet. And then when I saw neighbors first, I was like, well, am I a neighbor? Am I included in that statement? I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know if I'm considered a neighbor. Is a neighbor someone like me who lives here 3 months a year and chooses to rent his house out the rest of the year? Or is the neighbor someone who lives here 3 months a year and chooses to leave it vacant, generating no economic activity the rest of the year? Like, which one of those people is a neighbor? Is the neighbor someone who moved here 4 years ago? Is the neighbor someone whose wife was born in this town? That's me. Am I a neighbor? Is the neighbor someone who lives in Kalamazoo and then here, spending half their time in Oshtemo and half their time here? I don't know. Is that person a neighbor? Is a neighbor a snowbird who lives here 6 months a year, but is gone another 6 months a year and leaves their house empty? Or do they lose their neighbor status when they decide to rent their house out? At what point do they stop being a neighbor? Like, when do I lose my status as a neighbor? When does that happen? What's the dividing line? Because I think that's what's so hurtful. This year has been hard, I'll be honest. For my wife, who was born here in this town, born here, she's a neighbor. It's been hard for her. It's been hard for me. It's been hard for my kids because they see the signs. They hear the talk. The people that stay in our house, they all ask us questions. And then so it's obvious there's a concerted effort to make people feel uncomfortable. I mean, why else would you put those signs out? Why else would my neighbors put those signs in their yard and point it at my house and use it as a tool to make me feel uncomfortable? I don't get it. And so I'm trying to present the other side of this, that if you're trying to be welcoming, and by the way, I applaud your legislation. I spent years as a city councilman. I would have voted for that in a heartbeat. I would have, because they deserve equal rights, and they deserve to feel welcome. And so, but I think that we have to take a bigger look at ourselves and look at when things start as really well-intentioned efforts politically, because I respect everyone's right to self-govern, to determine the destination of their own city. You all have that right. We all have that right. We have the right to elect people and then to set a direction for the city. Good on you. But there's a point at which a political campaign turns into making people not feel welcome, and that's where I'm at. And it's where my wife is at. And it's where so many of us that spend 3 or 4 months a year here and choose to rent our house out, that's where we feel. And so I'd ask you to consider that when you're thinking about your votes and you're thinking about the legislation, that there's real consequences to the environment you're creating in this town. South Haven's an amazing place, and I really hope it stays that way. Thank you for your service to the city.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Anybody else? Going once, going twice.
Hi, Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. We're not vigilantes, and you guys really are our neighbors. At the city council meeting on at the end of January in 2020, agenda item 13. The resolution set the planning and zoning application and review fee schedule, which was $300 for a variance request or an ordinance interpretation or appeal of an administration decision. There was absolutely nothing that gave the opportunity to charge a $1,500 escrow fee if you wanted to bring an application to ZBA. There was an opportunity to add up to an additional $500 to recover additional costs in connection with attorney fees, engineering fees, or planning consultant fees under Exhibit A, Building Department Permit Fees, but not to bring an application to ZBA. In 2019, there were only 5 ZBA meetings and 7 canceled meetings due to lack of business. In 2020, there were only 5 ZBA meetings, 7 canceled due to lack of business. And in 2021, there were only 6 meetings, with 6 canceled. And in 2022, there's only been 3 meetings, and 2 of them were for the same 4-foot porch variance. And last month, of course, the 7 applications that were brought to ZBA were all unable to be brought to ZBA for various ridiculous reasons brought forward by City Manager Kate Hosier. Those applications should be brought forward to ZBA. In the meantime, I would like an opportunity to, at some point, bring forward the way like the people did who wanted to bring lifeguards to the beach, or any number of people brought a PowerPoint presentation to City Council. 5 minutes will never do it, but I spent some time looking at the STR, and it isn't about the people. We like the people in our neighborhood, all the renters and all of our neighbors. They're all our neighbors. It's not about the people. It's about the misuse of housing stock. That's what it's about. It's not about not liking people. But anyway, I would like to make a PowerPoint presentation at some point, and I would hope to have an opportunity to get on the schedule to do that. But all I did was I took a look at, let me look around this is my own little place, my own little house. And so I looked at across the street from me at 409 North Shore Drive, right across the street, where in my little R1A residential neighborhood, and I'm like, God, this place, man, they're crowded every single solitary day. They're like packed to the ribbons with cars on top of cars and people on top of people. And so I'm on the city parcel records going, well, Shazam, their STR permit's been expired since May of 2022. Expired. They haven't had a permit all summer long. Ding dong. Kelly Tungate, hey, they haven't had a permit since May of 2022. She said, I know, I'm a little behind on that. You're a little behind on that? They're a little behind on that. There's a $750 fine for the first violation of renting without a permit, a $1,000 fine for the second violation, and in 3 violations, you get canned for your permit and you can't re-register for a year. That's what you're behind on. So I'm like, okay, let me take a look at the house next door to that, which we call the Minnesota house, because the people live in Minnesota. They're really not our neighbors.
1 minute, Elaine.
Okay, they have a permit through, and I'm not afraid of them either, through Beach Walk Properties. They bought it in 2019 for $100, a personal permit. And somehow that's the only permit they've had, a $100 personal permit. And they're booked every single day of the summer, and they're all over the internet and all over Beach Walk Properties, booked all August, all September, and into October with a personal $100 permit. How does that happen? This is just 2 of them across the street from me. And if I had the opportunity, I'd talk to you a little bit more about the 8 units across the street from me with 40 guests and 0 parking, but I'd like to bring that to ZBA. So those should come forward, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Oh, you can go.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I appreciate the passion that we saw tonight. What is leadership? Leadership captures the essentials of being able and prepared to inspire others. Effective leadership is based upon the ideas, both original and borrowed, that are effectively communicated to others in a way that engages them enough to act as the leader wants them to act. The leader inspires others while simultaneously directing the way they act. They must be personable enough for others to follow their orders. And it goes on and describes what a good leader is. What you saw tonight, the questions about neighborhood, is a big result due to, I feel, the lack of leadership. You got a proposal tonight, and I'm not going to get into that because I think lack of leadership is the reason why there's a big misunderstanding of what we're trying to accomplish. I've lived here over 50-some-odd years, but the proposal tonight was discrimination about a lot of treating people equal and stuff like that. It becomes more personal to me, and you wonder why people don't feel welcome, particularly people of color. I know I speak slow, but I've seen people get up here and parade, and the 5 minutes seems like it's 10 minutes. When I get up, it's 3, 2. When Elaine gets up, I'm timing her. Seems like her time is being shortened. Some form of discrimination. You wonder why African Americans don't come and engage the government, city government, because of the looks that you give, responses that you make. I'm not that thin-skinned, so I keep coming back because I fight for what I think is best for this city. It has nothing to do with white or black. I don't see color in that way. But some of the things that you let come out of your mouth is very offensive. Very offensive. And so I think, as a leader, you should consider how you come across as well. I've made mistakes. I've made a mistake recently. But I asked Kate, did I come back to try to clear it up with some signs? I still have issues with those signs. Because if you look at St. Basil, they have just as much frontage as my church, and they have 2 signs that point this way that says no parking within these arrows. And there were 4 signs placed in the front of my church building. There's no consistency, but I felt like I did something that wasn't right, so I made it right. And that's what this council should do. Do what's right. That shows leadership. Did I not do that, Kate? Did I not make it right?
You did.
And that's what I expect to see out of this council that you are voted in to do. When you wanted to sit in that seat, you came to me. I meant something to you at that point. But now it's just a smirk and a smart remark. I think you ought to consider that the same people that you make these remarks to, well, the individuals and the people that help you get in that seat. So we ought to show some leadership. You ought to be the first example of what a good leader is. Thank you.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll say thanks for your comments. Feel free to call me sometime, Joe, and I'd talk to you, man to man.
I'm every bit of a man.
Next, come on out.
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. And James, I didn't see you over there in the corner until you walked up. I don't know if you've been by my house lately, but I have one of those signs in my yard. And I most certainly did not intend to make you feel, or anyone else feel, like it was directed at them. That was never my intention with the sign. James, you're not only a neighbor, you're a friend, and I think you know that. But I wanted to mention this once again. I mentioned it, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was here. Those signs are not universally seen as combative. In fact, we had a contractor who was next door to us who was working on a house that was, the owners weren't there, and he saw our sign, and he had a dead battery. He came over and felt comfortable asking us because he saw that sign in our yard and figured that we were neighborly. So I just want to say that I don't think it's universal in how that's taken. I really do feel badly that that's been taken by people as being unwelcoming. And I also want to say that I have zero tolerance for people on either side of this issue who are conveying any mean-spiritedness. It's not necessary. It's uncalled for. This is a huge issue in our community, and it's a complicated issue. There's not just one or two things involved with it. It's multifaceted, but it's about what we want our community to be going forward. This does not revoke anyone's STR permit. This is only, everyone who's here now is grandfathered in. This is about what we want to be going forward. And I think that the proposal that the NNN group has put forward is reasonable. I think it's already a compromise. We do not want to get rid of all STRs. We want to bring them back into a balance. But certainly, responsible STR owners are welcome. Seasonal neighbors are welcome. We have great examples of both of those in our community. But it is about what we think is going to be best for our city going forward. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Good evening, Amy.
Hello. Amy O'Sullivan Wheeler, 91 North Shore Drive. Some of the comments that I was going to say has already been stated, so I'll try to skip over those. But I am here to weigh in on the current short-term rental ordinance that's in place. I own 0 short-term rentals, and I manage 0 short-term rentals. But I do have the privilege of selling real estate to both local residents and second home buyers from all over. I'm here to show my support for the current ordinance that's in place and applaud you, the City Council, for your thoughtful and hard work creating and implementing it. I believe it is currently managing and controlling the STRs well. As many people know, the number of STRs have come down under this current ordinance, and I don't see a reason to revisit it. We can always tweak it here and there, but I think the outline that you have created has been successful, and I hope you guys feel the same way. I know the NNN group say that they're not bullying or casting the renters as villains, but unfortunately, when I'm showing houses and speaking to the renters and the landlords, I hear very different stories. I've been to listing appointments for residents that live down the road from some of these residents who are selling and chose not to move here full-time with their kids based on the harassment they received from these neighbors that claim to want full-time residents to move in. If they want full-time residents to move to the area, I suggest they start by being nice, because they look really nice here tonight, but in reality, you know, a lot of them are causing a lot of problems and causing a lot of people to feel unwelcome. They are casting the owners of these rentals and the renters as villains and the cause of all of South Haven's problems. In reality, these homeowners are providing employment and income for many local residents, including landscapers, cleaners, handymen, tilers, cabinet makers, carpenters, managers, builders, and the list goes on. They are referring their guests to local establishments, fishing charters, bike shop, that's funny, the bike shop. Ben is calling me as I say that. And our amazing retailers, week after week, they are donating to charities, supporting our local causes, and they often champion this town more than its own residents do. They aren't huge corporations like NNN is telling everybody when they're getting their petition signed. They're usually just families like you and me who are advised by their attorneys to form an LLC, and they're just excited to be able to spend some time here. Many of them are more neighborly than a lot of the folks sitting behind me tonight, and it's sad. I find it ironic that we just had this wonderful discussion about inclusivity and how we as a city want to make everyone feel welcome. Right, Joe, you said that? Well, neither the renters or the rental owners are feeling very welcome right now. Some buyers have chosen not to purchase homes here for a future retirement home because of the way they feel renters and rental owners are being treated right now, and those signs are not helping. They are causing a divide in our community, and the NNN isn't trying to create new jobs or solve the affordable housing issue. Spreading the rentals out or decreasing them it's not gonna cause the pricing on the lake to go down. The house next to Rosalie is never gonna be a $200,000 house. What will come in is the 1% who can afford a second home that they visit 3 times a year, and we will become a virtual ghost town. South Haven is about inclusivity, not just a place for the 1% to come and vacation. I don't want it to ever get that way. I want our stores to be as successful as they are today, the restaurants to have waits every night, and all the local business owners to continue to be successful. So I suggest that we leave the short-term rental ordinance the way it is. You feel free to tweak it, but I don't think we need to have it reworked by an attorney that the local retirees can afford to hire to put something together when basically if, it's not broken. So, the old adage, if it's not fixed or it's not broken, don't fix it. So as far as neighborhoods needing neighbors, I say we start with neighbors being neighborly. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, appreciate it. Anybody else? Ms. Rosalie?
Rosalie Flicati, 559 Monroe Boulevard. Or I should just ask Amy where I live. I wasn't going to say anything. This really isn't even my gig. This was put together by a group of people that care about South Haven. They care about a balance. Every report that you've had shows an imbalance of a healthy community as we move forward. The people working on this, and I apologize if somebody was rude, the first tenet of, and it's neighborhoods need neighbors, is to be civil and to listen and to explain their point. I've likened it to 90% of us agree on the same things. We care about our community. Everybody that's spoken here tonight cares about their community. We care about our family. We care about our health. We care about our homes. We care about our children. And then there's the 10%. Now, Neighborhoods Need Neighbors is approaching this to look at the future of South Haven to be a healthy community, not overrun by STRs and having no neighbors. I agree. James, we're friends too. The portrayal that we are somehow vigilantes is incorrect. We are not. We are a group of concerned citizens that came together to try to solve a community problem. Now, you all are going to do what you're going to do. Bishop Wilkins is right. You're the leaders. This is going to land on your desk. So I would suggest to the people that don't agree with NNN, start talking to them as you have tonight. And then, did I hear laughter behind me somewhere? I hope not. I was just going to say,
You guys can,
are you timing me?
she's got it, yeah.
Okay. When I'm being laughed at rudely, I lose my train of thought. I apologize. Again, that's not something that NNN does. I get it. But the other 10%, right, that we don't agree on is money-based. It's income-based. It's making money off of South Haven, which you have a right to do. This is America. But America is also the right for a group of citizens to say enough is enough. We have to look at the future of South Haven. Do we want to be an empty STR, come here, no neighbor? That's going to be up to you, because I can tell you that the petitions that we signed and that were turned in today are overwhelming. There's lots, not a small crew of vigilantes. So I'm sorry this has become so polarized, but I was not going to sit there and take insults from people that don't know me or on this group that I know intimately that have done good work. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosalie. Anybody else?
Rose, I have your glasses. Danielle Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. New subject. Blue Star, we have signs that sit near the blue stairs that say don't climb on the bluff, but people are, children especially, are being seen climbing up the bluff farther away, away from the stairs. Wondering if maybe a sign or two closer, like to the beach or whatever, would be a good idea. And the flag is missing at the top of the blue stairs, and I know that I use that as I go by to know whether, gee, I want to go down there or not today, and it's been gone for several days, FYI.
Thank you, appreciate it. We'll look into those. Good question on the sign, too. Anybody else before we call this a night?
Hello, Brian Carollo, Tony Carollo.
242 Oak Street.
Yep. We had communicated about the permit at 240 Oak Street previously. We had sent some communication to you guys. And I think Kate last Friday sent an email that stated her aerial GIS photo showed that the measurements of the previous, prior to destruction, non-conforming outdoor kitchen was 13.5 by 13.5, which we agree with. We think it matches. And then later in the email said, so that aligns with the permit, and so there's no changes. But if you look at the permit, it says 13.5 by 20 feet, and that 20 feet is what comes closer to our house and even more non-conforming than the existing structure. So we're just hoping that, again, that could be looked at, the documentation. If there's any questions, we're available to have a discussion.
Can I just add, there has been no intimidation on our part. We're just trying to have the kitchen that was built there before to be rebuilt the same way, in the same footprint. Not expanded, not closer to our house. That's the whole thing. There's been 2 iterations of this permit that they're claiming was correct, and neither one of them is correct. And so if there's questions of us, I'd be happy to answer them. If our neighbor wants to talk to us about it, we'd be happy to talk to her. In 14 years, she's never talked to us.
So if you have any questions, we're happy to help clarify.
I think we're good. I know staff's got it, so I know I'm good. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, anybody else? Good evening.
Good evening, Brandy Clome, 627 Superior Street. I am, don't tell anyone, 38 years old.
Good job.
I am a resident of South Haven. I purchased my home in 2017, but I was born and raised here. A lot of people know me and know my family, been around. I have big news to share. Some know that over nearly the last 2 years, I have been in a cancer battle, and I got my port out last week. And that was tough. That was really scary. You know, at 38 years old, finally in a good place in my career, feeling stable, homeowner, feeling pretty good, pretty self-focused, I would say, at the time, and thinking about me. Boy, was that a shock to get blindsided with that. Halloween 2020. I'm getting ready to start chemo in January 2021, the week of the insurrection. That was pretty freaky, huh? What? And it got me thinking about things a lot bigger than me. And when you're staring death in the eye, you think about, what about when I'm gone? What's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my friends? Will people remember me? What's going to happen to my town? and I love my town. I love South Haven, Soha, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's a great place. And like I said at the last council meeting, I think everybody's a lot closer than they want to admit, because sometimes when you get real stuck on wanting to be right, you shut off your ears. When I was sitting there January 2021, starting my first of 30 chemos, thinking about if I get to the other end of this, you know, what's next? And, you know, staking out on the White House lawn, trying to protect our nation, seemed like a stretch, might get arrested for that. So I thought maybe I'll start small and just be more active here, home, because home's what matters. If you don't have home, what do you have? And so I started listening to my neighbors, and my neighbors are snowbirds who go to Arizona, business owners who live here, have STRs, have restaurants here, people who live here year-round, long-term renters with children, without children, different religions, different political signs from different spectrums in their yards. It doesn't mean that we have to be hateful or shut off our ears and stop listening, because there are a lot of things we have in common. And I would really like everyone to think about what's best for South Haven. I've spent time speaking to realtors in town, people who are building for various intent. Neighborhoods Need Neighbors is not some spooky little group hiding in the shadows. It's more of a concept. If you have questions, there's a website, neighborhoodsneedneighbors.net. It's all out there what they're asking for, which is, in my opinion, very small tweaks to the existing ordinance. Housing is not a commodity. And if we allow it to become a commodity, then wow, it better be even more regulated, because look what's going on with oil, right? I want South Haven to be around for the long term, and I really would like everyone to start being much kinder-hearted to each other. And I've been listening to what's said tonight. I do respect the passion, but I really wish folks would stop and think a little bit more about compassion. Because just like there are folks that are afraid to come out here and stand in this podium and say, I want to have 100 short-term rentals, or one, whatever. There are business owners and responsible short-term owners who do believe gentle tweaks are necessary. They care about our schools, they care about our community, they care about South Haven. Please, if you feel triggered and you feel upset, find someone you think really disagrees with you and buy them a cup of coffee, because you'll probably make a friend. Thank you.
Good comments, and congratulations again. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Kate, city manager comments.
Thank you. I did want to let the council know that we did have our main internet connection with Bloomingdale went out temporarily at 7:36. So if anyone was watching, if they didn't hit the refresh button, all of this has been recorded, so it's online. It will be online as we go through. So just want to let you know that if you were watching, you may have lost your feed, but we were still recording, so it's still there. Just want to let you know the community survey is out. It should be hitting mailboxes right now. The written survey period will last until about August 28th. And then they'll stop collection of the paper surveys, and then the online survey will be online 8/28 or August 28th to September 30th. We'll have a link to that on our website. It'll go live on August 29th. As a reminder, August 15th, we have our DEI kickoff at 5:30 in this room prior to our regular city council meeting. Also, as a reminder, we have the election tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., so we'll have some signs out there reserving that area for voters to come in. Also, as a reminder, and Jeff, you kind of stole the thunder a little bit, August 6th, Saturday, we have a household recycling event from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Public Works, which is 1199 8th Avenue. So bring your electronics, your paint. If you set up your tires, they'll take those as well. Just remember to bring an ID or a tax bill for verification of your residency. And then lastly, we have received a petition from the Neighborhoods Need Neighbors. The clerk will begin certifying those signatures, and we have referred the petition to Dickinson Wright, that will be reviewing the petition for legalities. Those are my comments.
Questions for Kate? Nothing. All right, city council comments. Joe?
I'd like to remind everyone that August 6th, Hospice is having a fundraiser, and it's a wonderful organization, and it's one of those organizations that could affect almost everybody in this room or one of our loved ones. And I've had a father and a father-in-law affected. So I've never dealt with an organization that's not more compassionate and more caring and more loving at the most difficult times in our lives. So I hope everyone can go. It's August 6th. It's right on the bluff. The issue of short-term rentals, a couple people said it. There's all sides of this thing. I really felt bad when someone called the people from NNN vigilantes. No more than I would ever call someone who owns a short-term rental money-grabbing people, because there's both sides are trying to do what I think is best. But let's keep in mind, short-term rentals is a problem all over this country. There is not a tourist town, and even a lot of non-tourist towns, that aren't struggling with this. There is more litigation, there's more squabbling, there's more battles over short-term rentals in this country. And all you have to do is look at these giant companies that have gotten into it now. So it's not even, a lot of cases, local people. I have never talked to a neighbor, whether they're part of NNN or just a neighbor, who has ever called the people that own short-term rentals horrible names. Never. And they may not like having them next to them. They may not like the fact that their neighborhoods are dark in the winter. But all of them will also admit there's more to it. There's people that go away in the winter. There's people that only own a home and they only use it for a few months a year. But I do think we should all just talk about this. And I don't think we're all that far apart from each other. I don't think this is a case where some people, the residents or NNN, are way over on this side and the other side is way on the other side. I think we're closer than we think. And NNN, well, back up. My job on city council is to listen to the residents, to listen to the businesses. And I have yet to hear one person, whether a part of NNN or not, be so critical of the other side. But a lot of them are fearful. A lot of residents are fearful that their neighborhoods are becoming business communities, that they're becoming more commercial. And that's a concern, and it's valid. So I think we just need a compromise. And from my perspective, sitting up here, I thought what the two issues that NNN has proposed is a compromise. They have not said, let's have no short-term rentals. But I do have a chart here that was put together, and we have better than 2 times as many short-term, actually more than 3 times as many short-term rentals as a percentage of households than any other community along the lake. That is enough in itself to look at this issue and see what seems fair. So in my humble opinion, I'll listen to what the businesses and what the residents, and yes, what the realtors want, and then make a decision. But ultimately, I'm going to vote for what I think, as the young lady said, that I want the community to be here for the long term. And I just hope we can all be civil and we can all work this out together, because again, I don't think we're that far apart. Thanks.
All right, I just want to thank everyone that gave us comments and feedback tonight. It is very helpful. I also want to thank the Public Works folks for the improvements I've seen around town, the resurfacing of streets. That looks nice. I also used some new sidewalks today, which were also very nice. So thank you, Bill, for you and your staff. That's all I have.
I just first wanted to say, as not a city council person, but director of the Children's Museum in town, thanks to the city for helping us put on our fundraiser down by the riverfront on Saturday. It was awesome, and everything you did to help pull that off was very appreciated by us. And just to go back to the NDO thing for a second, I didn't get a chance to say when we were talking about it earlier, but I do know of it being an issue in South Haven, in our schools or in our neighborhoods or even downtown. So I'm so happy we're taking this step. I think it's really important and it is needed here. And lastly, just because it came up about my campaign slogan, particularly, James, I've never met you before. I don't know if you got on my website after you saw what my campaign slogan was to see what I stand for. What I ran for is simply being a voice for residents in my neighborhoods. That has been important. When I talk to my neighbors, I have heard over and over again, they feel like they're not being listened to at City Hall. The decisions are being made that aren't helpful for their lives and their futures in South Haven, and I ran so that I could make a difference in that way. So I'm very resident focused, and I did believe that we should be putting neighbors first when we make some decisions here. And yeah, just STRs, it's gonna be a complicated topic, and people are gonna say things and off the cuff that maybe ruffle some feathers, and I do hope that we can really move forward in a very thoughtful manner as we kind of talk through this, because we're at a crossroads right now, and most of us just want to see the city thrive, and that means sending our kids to school, having neighbors who can let you borrow sugar or batteries or whatever you need, making sure that our businesses that don't just include restaurants downtown, which are important, but also doctors' offices, our hospitals, our churches, there's so many businesses in town to think about. So I don't want to leave anybody out of this discussion because they're not tourist focused. So anyway, it's going to be a long and interesting conversation that we have before we make a decision. I'm excited to have our workshop, and I hope everyone can come out and share their opinions, and then we'll go on from there. So that's all.
And my comment is just thanks to everyone some people come all the time. We appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts. Some people come for the first time. But as George said, we do need to hear from you, and we appreciate you coming and talking. That's it.
Maybe more of a question for Kate on this, and then the signatures that you're talking about, is that have the ordinance on the ballot?
It has the attached sections that they're looking to amend on the ballot, yes.
So the voters of South Haven would vote for that ordinance that's on their website, or what?
So what happens is, so we go through a legal review, and we begin the voter verification, and then at some point, we have to bring it to city council in 15 days. I believe, is that correct, Nick? Or 30 days?
Right. So if it would be before August 16th. So if this city clerk, with the advice of, as Kate explained, retained special legal counsel, law firm of Dickinson Wright, to review for legalities, if they have sufficient signatures and it otherwise meets all the legal requirements, then the proposed ordinance would come to this council for review at the August 15 regular meeting. That gets us one day before the statutory deadline. And then council will decide whether or not to adopt the ordinance as written. You can't make any amendments to it, is my understanding. You'll have to recheck the charter for that. And then if council declines to adopt the ordinance as written, then it would be submitted to the county clerk and would be placed on the November ballot, and then would become law if adopted by the citizens. At that time, you would also consider a resolution for ballot language, how the proposal would look when placed on the ballot. So that would be included in the packet, just in case council, in the event council were to decide not to adopt the ordinance as presented. But again, the first step is the review of signatures. We just received those today. So Clerk Kiker will have to go through and check those against the state database. And there's also a legal review being done by a special legal counsel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
All right. First off, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who came out tonight and had all of your different comments and your concerns. I just found it kind of ironic that we were voting on adopting a new ordinance to make people feel welcome. And I was kind of disturbed because I don't think at no time should any person in this community feel uncomfortable coming up and saying what they feel. And that really bothered me. And just the nasty comments and things that were displayed. I think that, and I heard someone say about a leader, I consider myself a leader. I feel like I'm a leader in my community. I feel like I'm a leader, in my church. And people can say mean things, but I don't have to respond. And I think that's, the 30-year-old young lady back there, and congratulations to you. She said something so powerful. And what I got out of it is that it just seemed like we would have learned through this pandemic to be a little kinder. And I didn't like people feeling offended and coming up here feeling like they had to turn around and get someone straight. Your opinion is just your opinion. And I think that everyone's opinion matters. And I think as a council, we should make everyone feel welcome to state their opinion. No one should feel like Letitia Wilkins is going to roll her eyes at me if she doesn't agree with what I'm saying. There's a lot of times I don't agree, but I'm not going to roll my eyes. I'm not going to make faces. I think that's so unprofessional and inappropriate. So, and if I did that to anyone, I think that I can be a big enough woman to say, I apologize, because it was never meant to offend you. Maybe Jeff said something and I smirked, and that wasn't towards you, but I was laughing at something Jeff said. So I don't think that we're too big to tell someone in the community, I apologize, Rosalie, if I offended you, because our job as city council is to represent you and to listen to what you have to say. And so, again, I just want everyone to feel welcome to say what they feel, because everyone's opinion matters. Thank you.
Well stated. All right, so, again, thanks everybody for coming. I guess I'll just say quickly, on the STR issue, we will listen to both sides. I mean, we want everybody to come in, all sides. Got a rental, don't have a rental. I mean, we're looking, this is morphed through the years, but we will continue to work on this. So please come and be listened to. It's August. I talked to Jeff earlier. Back to school, getting close, right? A couple weeks?
22 days.
22 days. All right, encouraging. So please remember school zones, start slowing back down again, time to respect those school zones. As you ride by the high school, you see the dirt, you're also noticing some nice progress on our commercial rehab projects along Broadway and LaGrange. Seeing nice improvements along there, so it's nice to see. I'm kind of encouraged to see some of those wrap up. What else? I'm going to be like Rosalie. I guess I wasn't planning on responding, but when it seems it's attacked the mayor night, I guess I'll jump in and throw a couple comments out here. Ms. Herbert, and again, thanks for your comments. I know you made a reference to, I will always encourage everybody to apply for our boards and commissions. We're short on young folks. One of our youngest ones spoke tonight. And I actually encouraged her to apply and get involved because we're lacking young folks on our boards. A lot of them look at the goings-on here and think, I want nothing to do with it because of what goes on at some of these meetings. And I go out and I try to encourage them to come, to talk, to get involved. Many of you heard me say this. We have, I think, 0 Hispanic representation. I've talked to a number of folks. If you know a Hispanic person, I'd love to get that representation on a board. It's by no means meant to say any of us, I need that representation. So I will always try to go out and seek voices we don't see. That's what that's about. If that's wrong, I apologize. But I will always try to fill those voices. Pastor Joe, I'm kind of at a loss of words. I'm just disappointed. I found your comments offensive. I got lost at comments about manipulating the stopwatch, this, that, the other thing. I don't know. I've done this for years. Most people, I've never, ever, people come up, they feel welcome, they want to come, I listen. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. I'm offended. So on that note, I will say have a great night. I hope everybody has a good rest of your week. And I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.